Hey guys, it's Mike, and welcome to That's Cool Vintage Collectibles. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about John Lennon and his solo career, as well as seeing some memorabilia from that era, and also a piece that I got directly from Yoko Ono. Stay tuned. When I think about John Lennon's solo career and personal life of the 1970s, I think we can all kind of relate to the working class hero that was John Lennon at that time. And, when we think of maybe Paul McCartney, there tends to be an image of somebody that was near perfection most of the time and didn't do anything wrong. But Lennon had a lot of frailties and a lot of weaknesses. He struggled as a husband, as a father, and personally kept it, together at times, and then at other times just completely fell apart. So I think all of us on some level can find the human element of John Lennon and balance that with an incredible love for humanity and support, and was a very complicated human being, I think, to know. But his music has a lot of these elements in it, and let's take a look at some vinyl to get things started. We start things off in Lennon's solo career. It's actually with three albums that, to me, are kind of not even really records. They're more art pieces than anything else. I have one of them still. I've sold the other two off, but one that I still have is Unfinished Music Volume 2, and this is on that Zapple label that he had. I don't know. It's more an expressionism art or experimental or something. It's not something I'd listen to anyway, so that we're not even really going to discuss those. But in '69, there was a cool release, came out later actually, but Live Piece in Toronto 1969 is the debut of the Plastic Ono Band, which at that time featured Eric Clapton and Klaus Voormann on bass. And they play through a couple of Lennon originals. Cold Turkey's on here, and so is Give Peace a Chance. And then there's a few early rock and roll tunes like Money and Dizzy Miss Lizzie, and I forget the other one. Oh, Blue Suede Shoes kicks it off. So that's all on side one, and side one is quite actually an enjoyable listen, even though the band's pretty raw, but it sounds good. Side two is a lot of what's on this previous stuff, Yoko and whatever that was, and that's just, it's art. I think it was they were trying to go somewhere that hadn't been traveled before, and can't blame them for that. I don't really have a comment on that early stuff because I think he was trying to push it to some place that it had never been before. So, it is what it is. But by 1970, the Plastic Ono Band, this is the first true John Lennon solo album, and a really good one, actually. Quite an enjoyable listen, and Working Class Hero is on this record. So it's quite good. And then we get into Imagine, and these are both on Apple Records, and just a phenomenal album. So those two are getting things rolling. By this time, the Plastic Ono Band's starting to kind of separate and go their own way. He's starting to really drift a little bit in his personal life as well. The next three albums kind of show a lack of focus and a lack of structure, so we'll take a look at those next. We'll just take a little break from talking vinyl here to have a look at John's residence, the Dakota. I had the opportunity to visit the Dakota a number of years ago and to see his home. And it's right by Central Park, and there is the John Lennon Imagine Memorial in Central Park, which is a very worthwhile place to visit, and great place for fans to connect and celebrate the life and music of a true legend. But it's all within a very short walk of each other, and you can kind of stop in and visit and take your time there. It's pretty interesting. Hey guys, if you haven't already, please smash that like button and give us a subscribe. We can keep the content coming for you. This channel is going to feature all types of collectibles, not just rock and roll and music, but also pop culture, other vintage items, antiques, sports memorabilia, and more. Keep on collecting. Another piece I was very fortunate to get came in 2011 directly from Yoko Ono, and I contacted her hoping to get a photo signed from the bed-in in Montreal. Being Canadian, I wanted to have something in my collection, and I also collect Beatles signed items and things like that, and I really wanted to have anything related to the Beatles in it signed as much as possible. So I reached out to her, and actually she got back to me. I was very surprised, and I received a letter from her legal department that said this item could only be displayed here, and which was great, and solely for the purpose of being in this facility. And she sent me this great signed photo of her and John in Montreal, and I was very, very pleased to get that, and very grateful that she considered me. So thank you, Yoko. That was a nice surprise to get. The next three albums are a bit of a downward spiral creatively for John, and one I don't even own anymore. I sold off long ago, called Sometime in New York City, which to me is just not a great effort all around. The next one would be Mind Games. A couple of good tracks on each of these. There are moments of brilliance in each of these, and then there's also moments of complete lack of focus and direction, and it just isn't doing it. Walls and Bridges, the same thing. A few good tracks, lots of filler, and things that just don't make sense to be on the record, but they're there. And finally, there's a live album that comes out that starts to, basically recapture some of Lennon's stardom. Now, this album was a later release on Capitol, live in New York City, and it's a kind of a good time capsule, if you will, of John struggling with basically being famous and wondering if he still had it. And this show is quite interesting and entertaining to listen to. And around that time as well, we see the rock and roll cover album, taken from that time period anyway. And the rock and roll cover album is actually pretty good. And John always knew how to rock. He could always play rock guitar, and he always sang rock and roll really well. This is his, to me, where he lives. This is home base for John Lennon. And there is a track on here called "You Can't Catch Me," which was added because John had nicked a few lyrics from that song to use on "Come Together," and he felt he owed Chuck Berry a little bit of a nod, so we put that song on there. So there you go. That's the next phase of stuff from Lennon. After that, there's only another album I'd kind of mention, which was released right prior to his death, Double Fantasy. This had a few big hits, just like Starting Over is on here, and was probably one of his better efforts. Now, this is moved to the Geffen label, so he started the 70s on Apple, moved to Capitol, and eventually ended up on Geffen. And an album that came out a little bit later as sort of a greatest hits is Shaved Fish. And if you want just kind of a general overview, this one's a good place to start. I'm just going to take a minute and share with you now a couple of pieces that are just hanging around here in my collection. This was, this is a wall in the Czech Republic known as the Lennon Wall. And it's a photograph of just some of the graffiti that's been added, and Beatle-related items and things that are left on the wall daily. So I thought that's pretty cool. Pretty neat to visit that. That's in Prague in the Czech Republic. Another item that is here, this is the newspaper, the Toronto Sun, from the day Lennon was murdered. And, papers all over the world, I'm sure, are collected, about this tragic event. But it's just, I think it was such a horrific way for him to go that it's hard for people to comprehend. So this is a bit of a, I don't know, just more of a historic item than a souvenir or anything like that, but just something of such an event that had so much magnitude. It affected so many people. Just a quick side note about John's backing band in the 70s. In the early part of the 70s, the Plastic Ono Band kind of morphed into this band that was a New York group at the time called Elephant's Memory. And let me back up here. They do have a few records. I think there's 4. I only have this one. They're not the easiest to find. I don't know how common they are. But on the back, this is on Apple, and it is produced by John and Yoko. And this is John's backing band from late 71 until 73, I believe. And they did his live appearances and things like that. So just, if you're going to collect some Lennon stuff, not the easiest band to track down, but certainly, part of that whole early 70s classic era for Lennon.
Another time when I was in New York City, I went to a gallery that was having an opening for John's work, and they were selling pieces of his sketches and his poetry and writings and things like that. And it was at a gallery in Soho, and it was pretty cool. I got to go and just sort of hang out there and have a look around, and I didn't buy anything, pretty pricey stuff, but it was cool to see and to see it up close. And ever the humanitarian, Yoko had set up. There was a donation at the door to help benefit the City Meals on Wheels program, with the slogan above it that said, "Imagine there's no hunger." And I think she has carried John's legacy very well with being the humanitarian and making sure the money raised by his charities are going to the right places.
Well, that's going to do it for today, folks. Thanks very much for tuning in, and I appreciate everybody checking out the videos. If you're looking for a collection of Lennon stuff to give it a try, and you're sort of new to get into his solo material, this Lennon Anthology CD box set is very good. It's a 4 CD set, 60-page booklet. It's got everything you need to sort of introduce yourself to the career of John Lennon's solo material. Lots of stuff out there nowadays to listen to find that, but that's a good, if you want physical media, that's a good box set to start with. Appreciate everybody watching. Give us a like and subscribe. We'll keep it coming and keep on collecting.